they sign in before they come in here so that we know that they are recorded for the record. So good morning, everyone. My name is Erin Hannafenberg. I currently serve as president of the congregation, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you all for joining us today. This is only the second time that we've actually been able to have a congregational, like a big congregational meeting like this in person since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, which feels kind of crazy. And it's my first as president, so I'm new to all this, and I hope you'll bear with me as we kind of work out some of the kinks. We did make this a meeting available for live streaming so people can watch it online, but there will not be the option of voting remotely today. So for those of you who are here in person, the trust of the entire congregation is in your hands. I think we do have a quorum, according to our secretary, right? So I'd like to invite Pastor Daniel to lead us through the opening devotions.
Thank you, Erin. I got my own. This is a reading from Philippians 4, starting with verse 8. Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, and the God of peace will be with you. The phrase that jumps out to me here for in the context of this meeting is, keep on doing the things. Keep on doing the things. I said this at our last council meeting, but I've read and I sense that people's trust in institutions in our country, and maybe around the world now, is at an all-time low. Whether it's the U.S. military, nonprofits, the government, schools, police, definitely churches. These are the things that keep alive hope for civil society and Christian society in the world. These are the things that we don't want to do. John has put an incredible amount of work, as has the exec team and other leadership, But these are the things, amen? These are the things that keep an intergenerational community that claims it's beloved and claims that value of intergenerational and also being bold. This is what we do. So keep on doing the things. And how does it end? And the God of peace will be with you. We're all yearning for that. We're all yearning for peace and assurance and love and grace in the world. And so as we do the things of this annual budget meeting, remember what you're part of and the purpose that we serve in God's name and how much joy there can be within it. God be with you. Let us pray. God, thank you so much for the things, even though they are difficult, the things, even though they test us through leadership and our capacity, our exhaustion, and how do we get ourselves out of bed to do them. And yet these things are the fabric of hope in our world. So God bless all these people, and God bless your message of grace that continues to speak to our hearts and allow us to be vessels of that grace, hope, and peace in a world that's so sad and broken and angry and despairing. Feed your people, Lord, through these messages, the inspiration of our leadership, and all of the careful work that's done so we can keep doing the things in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Daniel. Okay, moving on to the businessy kind of things. We have approval of the minutes from the last meeting. So the draft of the minutes from the May 2022 meeting is in your packet. If you haven't already read them, I gave you time at the beginning here. Please do so very quickly now. And I'm going to assume that everybody's up to speed. So are there any corrections to the minutes as they have been distributed? Yes, Michelle. Oh, good point. Jennifer Ryan Moberg. Thank you for catching that. Any other corrections to the minutes that people have noticed? Okay. With that correction, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as that has been corrected. I heard a so move, but I also heard I saw Marie's hand. So let's do so move from Kent. I'll second. Marie will second. Great. At this time, I'd like to open the floor for any discussion. Assuming there's none, we'll move forward. All in favor of adopting the minutes as presented, actually with that one correction, please raise your hand and say aye. Okay, any opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion passes and are approved. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite Pastor Daniel to give the co-pastor's report.
Thanks, Madam President. As you can see, our beloved co-pastor Jill Rohde is not with us. I'm an introvert, so I love getting out of things. I mean, if I can get out of things, I will. Jill Rohde is not like that. So it's not killing her, but she's indicated to me that she's very, very frustrated that she can't be here today, because that's Jill's personality. She wants to be here, and I mean, I'm not saying I don't want to be here in some important ways, but you know, you have a good complementary co-pastor team, because Jill is that kind of executive leader. So please continue to pray for Jill, and I'm sure, Jill, you're with us online. I wanted to start with some thanks, and I have to start with thanks for Jill. There's a section in the co-pastor report about that, about how things are going with us, so I hope you'll look at that. I also want to thank Aaron and Dan, Bjorn, and John, and I guess Jill, obviously online, but our executive team has done so much work. Our council continues to do so much work, and now the steering team, led by Marie Lister for the appeal, is an incredible amount of work that's happening. So, and thanks be to God for all of you as well, as members of this Assembly of Christ. Aaron and I talked before, and I'd just love to take any questions, so you can certainly read this report at your leisure. But if you have any questions for me or Pastor Jill, please do that now. Share them with me now. And you can always contact us outside the meeting, of course.
And now he's trying to get out of it. Okay.
Right, you got me. Thanks, everyone. Bless you.
Thank you. Yeah, so we do pray for Pastor Jill,
Yeah.
that she has a speedy recovery, because the flu is no fun at all. Okay, so moving on to the executive report. I put most of my energy into writing the report and not a lot of energy into preparing to give a written summary of the report, so hope you all read that instead. The one thing I do want to call out for the congregation is that I have found the work of being on the council to be personally and collectively really transformative. I think, to Pastor Daniel's devotional point, we show up and do the things, and through doing the things, we're being transformed as a council and as a community. So I think that's what God is seeking to do here for us, is to work within each of us and all of us together to truly become followers of Christ and to do God's work together. And it's a little uncomfortable sometimes. It's anxiety-ridden. It keeps you up at night, or it makes you not want to get up in the morning. But seeing how the leadership of this congregation has been working together to make decisions, and how we've been interacting with each other and with our members as a whole, has me really, really optimistic, and looking forward to the next 3 years, and not 3 years as president, just to clarify, the next 3 years of our strategic plan. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marie Lister, who can give a mission appeal update.
Did we get that in the meeting minutes, that Erin said she wanted to be president for the next 3 years? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dan Fisher, for your excellent notes. Hi, my name is Marie Lister, and it is my pleasure and privilege to be the chair of the Mission Appeal team. We have gotten the Mission Appeal going, and we are meeting the moment. I have been a member, my mom and I just did the math, a member of this congregation for 34 years. Yeah, time. For 34 years, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be a member of this congregation at this point in time, and to see the way we are gathering together to do good works, not only here, but also in our community and in our society. It is a breath of fresh air to me as a Christian and as a member of this congregation. It brings tears to my eyes. It chokes me up. The money part, yes, but seeing us come together as a community and seeing us dig into, I think your point, Pastor Daniel and Aaron, thank you for reinforcing it. I was actually looking for a poem that speaks to this too, but doing the work, right? Doing the work together. I'm interested in being in community with people who are passionate about the lives that they lead. I come to this church for peace, and I look outward. I try to take that peace with me into the world and use it to do good things. And so I hope you're as excited as I am to step into this moment, meeting the moment. That exclamation point is Blaine Thrasher's. Thank you, Blaine, he got that in there. We're so excited, right? And I think the messages that we've been sending out, that Joanne Spencer has been helping us craft and get out to you guys, I hope that they excite you too. So I'm just gonna go through them quickly, but advocating for affordable and equitable housing, I think that first one, advocating, right? We do that work. We do that work with the youth in our congregation. We think about how to take care of people who are homeless and experiencing houselessness. We make the car care kits. We used to do the cardboard box city. But to marshal our resources and to advocate that at a more systemic level, that's exciting to me. That to me is meeting the moment, right? Stepping out of what we're comfortable doing and stepping into an opportunity where we can affect systemic change. And so I think looking at all of the points of our mission appeal, I hope they get you excited too. Supporting refugees and immigrant families and individuals. Again, work that we already do. How can we elevate that, right? Where do we take all of this collective passion and reach farther and reach deeper? In reach for those who seek connection and belonging. Chris, Colleen, and I get to be on a team that's gonna help steward that in our congregation. And again, as someone who's been here for 34 years, that's deeply personal to me. I haven't always felt connected to this church. At different points in my life, I've felt alienated from this space, and to think about how we can be welcoming to everybody so that people who grow up in this community feel seen and heard and loved, that's where my passion lies in this mission appeal. Supporting families together, right? Helping the St. Paul Synod, giving money to them so that we can support the good work that they're doing. Partnering with the St. Anthony Park July 4th parade. I hear the parade organizer is just a genius, sort of just a really kind woman. It's me, if you didn't know. I organized the 4th of July parade. But working with community leaders in that way, again, they're there, right? The structure is there, the parade is there, thousands of people come to our community there. How can we stretch that, right? How can we invite more people to be part of that? And then the music ministry. This church has a strong, strong history of music ministry and equipping our practitioners with a new organ and new funds so that they can dig more deeply into that. I met with the organ committee a few weeks ago. They taught me terms I'd never heard before. But just being present to witness their passion and the deep, deep, dedicated work that they've done to do right by this organization, right by our church congregation, right to find us an instrument that fits our needs and helps push that music and that ministry into the world. Again, so excited. Thank you for participating. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for welcoming the little Sunday school children as they came to your door. Thank you for being part of this moment.
Thank you, Marie. I want to add a few more remarks just about the organ-specific stuff because it is something that's been before council. One, I want to thank and echo Marie's appreciation for the work of the Organ Search Committee, which has been, I would say tireless, but I think they're all tired. But they are listed in the Meeting the Moment pamphlet, but they're not. They're listed in their entirety, so I'm going to actually say all of their names. Mari Espeland and Nancy Plagans have been co-chairing this committee. And then the other members are Paul Hahnemann, Joshua Lindgren, David Ryan Moberg, Martha Nelson, Jennifer Stucker, Adam Wood, and left off the list was Sarah Scovold. So let's give them another thanks for their work so far. There's a page dedicated to the organ and our music ministry in the Mission Appeal Prospectus, so hopefully you've seen that. And if you've read the fine print, you've seen that the Organ Search Committee has recommended that we contract with Letourneau Organ Builders of Quebec for a new organ. The Organ Search Committee made this recommendation to council in December, and we voted unanimously to move forward with this proposal. The Organ Search Committee is in the process of finalizing the specifications of the organ and the contract terms with Laterno, and we plan to have that by the end of March. And then by our May meeting, we will know how much of your mission appeal pledges will cover the costs of the organ, and we'll be able to dedicate those funds and vote on signing the contract. I want to be clear that we will not bring an organ contract to the congregation without a clear path to pay for it. In the months ahead, you'll be able to learn more about this organ and the plans from the organ committee. And you'll see some renderings of the very exciting and beautiful instrument that we hope will be coming to us eventually. And I'm sure that Nancy and Mari, excuse me, will be eager to answer any questions that you have. So please search them out if there are things specific to the organ that you would like to know. Okay, so moving on the agenda, we have to appoint some Linglumston delegates. We have a slate of delegates. The current delegates are Solveig Storhoff, Jean Larson, Dave Hansen, Dave Brostrom, and Catherine Eklund. And I need to confirm that these people are willing to continue to serve, or if there are any substitutions. If those people, okay. We're going to assume that since there's no objections or substitutions, that the slate that is named are eager to move forward and continue to serve. So I will need a motion to approve that slate of delegates. Dave Christensen moves. And a second. Second by Lisa Clark.
Could I ask a question for those of
Yes.
you who are new? Could you ask if people to stand so they know who they are?
Oh, yes. If you are present. Yeah, right. Okay, that's a good point. Not all members are present who are on the slate, but if you are, can you stand? I know Catherine is here, and there's Solveig. Oh, yep, and Dave and Jean. So Dave Hansen is the only one who's not present, but which makes reminder, like we should get an update on our directory, our photo directory. I'm looking at Paula, like she has the magic, but we'll save that for after. That can be the after meeting conversation. Okay. All right, so that's our slate. Thank you for the point of clarification as to who these people actually are. Now that we have a motion and seconded on the table, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, delegates are approved. Thank you so much. We also need to approve Synod Assembly delegates. This is for the Synod Assembly, which is on Friday evening, May 12th through about midday, mid-afternoon, Saturday, May 13th. It's at St. Andrews in Matamidi. And for this one, we'll take nominations from the floor. We need one male identifying person and one female identifying person and one alternate. So do I hear any nominations for Synod Assembly delegates? Yes, Michelle? Oh, a couple. That could be good. Great. Okay, any other nominations? We need an alternate. Jennifer Stucker is willing to be an alternate? Okay. All right, so I would like to entertain a motion to close the nominations if we have those three people secured. So move. Dave and Marie. Okay. Then we need to vote. Actually, I'm just going to declare the nominations closed. I think I can do that. That's what was in my script. So as I said, I'm just going off what was here before. I'm like, if Bjorn did it that way, I think I can get by with it too. Okay, so now we'll just vote on the Synod Assembly delegates. Is there a motion to approve the slate as nominated? It would be Michelle and Dave Christensen and Jennifer Stucker as an alternate. So move. Jean. Second, is there a second? Second, Chris Colleen. Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Please say nay. Okay, the motion carries. The delegates are approved. Thank you so much for your service, and thanks to the Linglumston delegates as well for that continuing work. Okay, now I will turn it over to John Berger. This is the highlight of the whole meeting. John Berger to give a treasurer's report and then to present the budget.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, we're ready. Okay, all right. Okay, we'll do the treasurer's report, and then we will talk about the budget. I'll just sit down so I don't get in anybody's way. So thank you to begin with for letting me be your treasurer for as many years as I've been your treasurer. It's been very enjoyable. And every year that I do it, I have a little bit of amazing things that happen that surprise me and delight me. And so we'll talk about those as we go through. So first, Caroline is my slide flipper. So our goals today, we'll do two things. One is I'll talk about what happened in 2022, and I will talk about what we're planning to do in 2023. So beginning with 2022, our actual income, $671,700, was 3% under 2021, but one thing that differs there is we did not use any dedicated money, no memorial money was used in 2022, so that's a difference. And then we were 6% under our 2022 budget. Most of that appeared to be a reduction in mortgage reduction giving. So people sometimes give three main areas. They give to congregational ministry, which is money that goes in and has 10% taken out for benevolences. They'll give to current operating, which is money that goes directly to operating with no benevolence taken out, and they'll give to mortgage reduction. And the mortgage reduction giving has gone down recently. I think that's just partly because the mortgage is less of a concern for people these days and they want to maybe give it differently. It's a decision that they've made individually, so we saw less mortgage reduction giving. The actual expenses were $720,200, which is 4% more than our 2021 actual, which looked to be mostly related to utilities and some increases in our insurance payments. So just sort of stuff that has to happen for the organization, the building. And it's 1% over our 2021 budget, and I would say most of the difference from budget would be we had some increased expenses in employee benefits, and I can talk a little bit about that later. So the deficit for the year was $48,500, and before anybody gets too concerned about that, there are two things that we can take back out of that. One is we had a large expense refund that occurred, and secondly, most importantly, we had costs due to the mission appeal. So if you remember back when we approved going forward with the mission appeal, we said we would borrow money from the permanent fund. After the meeting, we found out that that wasn't going to be possible based on how the permanent fund's structured. And so we ended up borrowing money from ourselves, our own operating funds. And that's what the majority of that amount is. And so that will be repaid back to the operating portion of the church once we start raising money from the mission appeal. And so I took it out of the deficit, and so the resulting deficit is $3,300, which is a pretty nice ending. This is just a graphic depiction of how things go for our church, and I'll just say what happens in December, it really turns the year one way or the other. Our church is very heavily invested in Simply Giving and other giving mechanisms that give on a regular basis. I think that's a tremendous thing. That's something that Caroline and I did for many years because you don't have to think about it. It just happens. You made the commitment and the money goes where it belongs. But there's a whole other component of giving, and that's now what I've transitioned into in the last couple of years, and that is I give in kind of maybe out of a foundation, charitable foundation, or out of an IRA or whatever, right? So A lot of times those happen at the end of the year. And so we have twice as much income of a normal month in December. It's like a double month. And so that occurred this year as well, as it often does, and that was really a big swing. It makes it a little hard to plan for the next year because none of us in council can do much until we get to the end of the year, absolutely past December 31st, because we don't know how good December or bad December is going to look. So we waited, we got a great result, so thank you for all that, but then we have a really rushed time to make sure that we're ready for budgeting and such. So, but it all came together again, so I just want to thank everybody for all the giving during the year. Okay, and then how that affects our accounts. So I broke this up into what's in our checking account. We do our business with Sunrise right across the street. And we have a checking account and we have a savings account there. And the checking account is where we keep our operating cash and our dedicated and memorial funds. So operating cash is money that is kind of coming in and going back out in terms of salaries and bills and such like that. Our dedicated and memorial is the money that's reserved for particular uses. It a lot of times was given for a particular use. Somebody gave money particularly to the worship music arts, or gave it particularly to the youth group or the education group. There's a lot of groups you can see in the balance sheet report. And so the dedicated, let's start with the operating. The operated went up slightly in 2022. The dedicated and memorial stayed pretty flat, and the building savings, I show it going up, but it actually went down slightly. Sorry about that. Basically flat. So not much happened in our overall checking account, our kind of main checking account. The big difference that happened, and you'll see it on the balance sheet, is a pretty dramatic drop in our investments. Anybody who has any money in investments should not be surprised by this. We saw by the end of the year, we had gone from last year being at $755,000 and wondering, what are we going to do with all this money, to being at $590,000, which is more normally where that account has been. So it has dropped. It's starting to recover, actually, per Dave, and I think things will go up and down, and we don't think too much about that. The Luther Place account, the investment committee is in charge of that. They have a report that's included in your bulletin there, and so it is an account that funds our special ministry grants at this point. And so it went up, it went down. We'll have less money for special ministry grants in 2023 as a result of that. And the building account is a separate investment account that we maintain. It basically has stayed stable. I use that account to, if people give stocks, I can put them into that account, cash, or sell the stocks, and then move the money wherever they want the money moved to. So we use it for that purpose primarily. And our mortgage continues to be a good thing. As I mentioned, it went from over $300,000 to under. It's at $279,000. So continues to drop down. And yes.
If money is donated with no designation, how is it distributed? Which account?
Yep, great question. If you didn't hear it, if money's donated and I don't get a designation for it, then I put it into the congregational ministry account. So it goes into our normal giving. And you have the freedom on the other side of that to designate your gift for anything that you'd like. The thing about putting it into congregational ministry is that is a great account because it allows the church to use it however we want. If it goes into that account, then it can be budgeted. If it goes into a dedicated account, it's not part of our operating budget. So there's pros and cons to each, wherever you want to give it. We're never going to turn away a gift, but I'll just say that that's where we default them, into congregational ministry. All right, so the accumulated surplus. So we have a surplus. Most of this money it either is generated by past surpluses in our operating budget, or in particular by the PPP money. So during COVID, we applied for a PPP grant or loan, I guess. That loan was forgiven. We met the criteria for that. So that has gone into our accumulated surplus. We used a portion of that to cover our deficit that we just talked about, the $3,300, and so we still have a surplus to hold us forward. All right, a little bit of recognition. I want to recognize some folks here. I get to talk about this every once a year, but a lot of the hard work is done by other people. So Paula Carter is over there. She has taken over a lot of the work that Carol was doing on a day-to-day basis. So, and she works with a company called Clergy Financial Services. So I might have talked about this last year, but Carol was a bookkeeper who did everything from A to Z. She would open the mail, she would take in checks, she would do all the handwork, and she would also do all the QuickBooks entries and entry into Icon CMO, which is our giving database that produces the letters and tracks who gave what and gives you the letter at the end for the IRS. So she did everything. Now with her departure, her retirement, Paula has taken over the part which is opening the mail, and then she copies and scans the bills and sends them to Clergy, and Clergy does all the QuickBooks entry. So it's been a lot of work to get it all working together, and Paula and I know this, and Clergy, John, who we worked with, we've had 3 different folks at Clergy we've been working with, but lately we're working with a gentleman named John, who I trust because his name is John. No, they've all been good, but it's been a bit of a turnover, but John has been great, and he's really been helpful for us. And so between the 2 of them, I depend heavily on both of those folks. And the same with membership data. They split that up. So Paula handles some of it, and John handles the giving aspect of the membership data. And then counting deposits, Brenda Hansen, Sonia Ellis, Rich and Carol Femling, and Kent and Catherine Eklund. They will count things and get them to the bank, and then get the report back. And then taking Sunday deposits to the bank, Solveig and Ev take care of those. And then the council and committees are spending, but they're also watching what they're spending and spending the money judiciously and according to the budget. So really good work by everybody. So I wanted to speak a bit more and recognize Clergy, our financial services, our bookkeepers. They have done a couple things that have been really helpful to me. One is they've conducted audits. We've never had, in my time, an audit, separate outside audit, and this gives us the opportunity to do that. And one of the things that they found was they identified a misalignment between our payroll and our benefits. We work with Portico, who administers the benefits, and they charge us bills, and then Paychecks sets up the paychecks for our folks. And ideally, those should be exactly in sync, and Carol, to some degree, took care of that, but what we found was that there was misalignment, and when we found it, I said, hey, could you audit it and go back as far as you can and find out when it started? And they went all the way back to January of 2021, and that's as far as they could go back, and they found that the issue existed prior to that. So it's been with us for a long time. It's not super large. It was not, thank goodness, tax related in any fashion. It was basically benefits that the employees were getting for the most part, but they weren't being charged for. We weren't withholding pay for those benefits. So the accountant said, or the bookkeeper said, do you want to go back and recover that money from the employees? And I said, no, don't really want to do that because I don't think it's anything, that had to do with them. It was unintentional. What was happening was folks were going directly to Portico to make changes in the benefits, and they didn't realize that as a result, there would have to be corresponding changes in the payroll. And because they didn't notify Paula, then those changes didn't happen, and it built up over time. So the total is $5,500 $502, and I wrote that off. So during this year, we had that write-off. Had we not had that write-off, I guess looking back on it, we would have had a slight surplus. But it's the right thing to do, in my opinion. We talked about that with the executive committee, and we decided to do that. So just to let you know, but that is really a nice benefit, example of the things that they can do when they're looking at our books from an outside perspective, not internally. Carol didn't see this. No one saw this before this. They also improved our books. So if you look at the balance sheet, you'll see it's kind of weird. There's a bunch of things in equity that had money and now they are zeroed, and you'll see things in assets that are vice versa. We're moving the dedicated reporting of that as from an equity position to an asset position. What that does is it helps us really understand, or should be clearer for everybody once we get through it, that the way it works is we have a checking account that has a large amount of money, but we can't use all that money. A lot of it's dedicated. This will be very clear as to the portion of it that's dedicated. So I'm excited by that change. They also moved to an online version of QuickBooks. We were using an old desktop version, which meant I had to actually physically come to church to look at it. And we also, once we moved to an outside service, they had to send me a backup, which I had to upload into our desktop version, and it was just really painful. So they moved to online. Now I can access it from home or whenever I want to and answer issues, and it's automatically up to date with the last second that they made the change. The other recognition I want to do is more fun. It's Paula Carter for 20 years of service. And I can't believe it's 20 years because I remember being part of the group that interviewed Paula back in the day and was really excited for her when she joined. And she does, obviously, I listed a bunch of things here. Church administrator, she does lots of communications related things. She coordinates building activities. Now we've added financial data aspects and membership data aspects. And she is a reliable source of candy for kids and treats for dogs. My whole family depends on it. So anyway, really appreciate Paula, especially this last year. It's been awesome. All right. Let's talk about 2023. So this process starts, as I mentioned, sometimes at the end of the year, we basically try to get a wish list from all the committees to say, what would you like to spend money on? How would it depart from the prior budget? And then we also look to all of the pledges that come in to try and estimate what the income will be. And then I take a stab at forecasting what the surplus or deficit will be. And this, like I mentioned, occurs shortly after the end of the year. So I did that at the beginning of January. And then we revise those projections and review them with the council, and we come up with a vote or a budget to approve for all of you to vote on. So we'll go forward. So the wish list, and I haven't listed everything here by any means, but I'll start off with, we wanted to pay 5% raises for the staff, and that's more than the 3.5% guideline from the ELCA this year. The Synod gives us a guideline every year. We wanted to pay more for that. That was an executive committee request because of two things. I think the performance warranted it, and secondly, that knowing that there's inflation that's out there. So those two, that was one of the wish list items. Then we had, and I'm just going to list a few of these that were out there. There's many of them that people wanted to do at different commissions. WMA wanted to do a guitar program that had started this year on a special ministry grant. Want to continue that. The dwelling place and adult ed, that was a couple things that we wanted to continue. It started a little bit, and we want to expand adult ed. There was a high school youth event, a special event in education. I threw in there the potential need to help Paula with some part-time financial administrative helper, and then our goal, as always, is to balance the budget. So first, we'll look at the giving plan. I forecasted, based on the pledging that I saw, a pledged giving of $593,500. This is a 4% increase over last year, which is really great. I was a little bit worried that, knowing a mission appeal is on the horizon, that people might reserve some aspects of their pledge for that, but it doesn't appear that. Now, the pledges are a little bit less increased than prior year, so there may have been some of that, but it was positive, 4% positive. The forecasted non-pledged giving is $90,100, and you'll see that's a 7% decrease. A good part of that decrease is just looking at it and saying some of those folks moved from non-pledgers to pledgers, other things were occurring, so we see that as a decrease. And then the forecasted other giving, $36,400, that is actually an increase in program income giving. We've had lower years during COVID as programs were less. Like we just heard, the soup suppers coming back, some more giving in that area we expect. So total forecasted giving for 2023 is $720,000. So the council, as I mentioned, they submit their projections, and then the council makes some decisions. So we look at those wish lists and we try and figure out, can we have all those wish lists or do we have to take some away? We did apply $2,020 from, I'll say this, we thought we had a surplus, and so anybody that's here on the council is wondering why we have a deficit. Last minute changes and adjustments to the finances after our council meeting took a $2,000 surplus to a $3,000 deficit. But in any case, I kept that application from past surplus in our budget, and we did approve a balanced budget. So just at a high level, this is what it looks like. We see a 7% increase in income over last year. As I mentioned, that's both the increase in pledging giving and an increase in other giving, special program giving. So $720,000. We used $2,000 in surplus funds. We have actual expenses last year of $692. We see an increase of 4% in that, and that gets us to $720,000, and so we have a balanced budget that we're recommending. If we look against the wish lists, the way we did that is we included the 5% increase in our operating budget. The guitar program, dwelling place, adult ed, the high school youth event, we're hoping to pay for those with dedicated memorial funds. As I mentioned, there was no spending of dedicated memorial this year, so there is money there to pay for things. We should use that. That money was given to be used, not to sit in an account. So we'll continue to use that where we can. And then two aspects were canceled. The special event from education, they decided on their own to cancel that. And I took out the financial admin help. Paula said, no need right now. So she was happy to continue as she's going. We'll keep that thought in mind if she needs it. So that became a balanced budget. And just, this may be hard to read, I'll just kind of summarize it. Our history in giving. So we've saw the amount per pledge is up 4%. The number of pledges over last year is about the same. The amount per non-pledged is down 26%. And I think a lot of that, I wrote that some people moved to pledging. I think that occurred. Because even though the number of pledged is about the same, we have people die or leave. People have to be replaced. We had movement, more pledges as about the same. And then we also have, as new people come in and are non-members and give, they don't start by giving a bunch. They start by giving a little, and then they grow over time. And so we have more folks coming in. We had non-pledged givers up 6%. So that's another indication that we're seeing more people come in and give. They're just not giving a lot yet. And so that's kind of a natural progression. And then the focus on giving in both pledged and non-member or new members is, I think, continues to help our finances. So summary, the 2023 budget is balanced. We gave the staff the raises we wanted to provide for them. Most of the council wish list items were funded one way or the other, and we continue to have a surplus in reserve to cover uncertainty that may be in the future. We are facing a future of growth. We have the operations and coming soon the mission appeal that we'll both be watching that. I've got to be with Paula and Clergy Financial prepared for the mission appeal transactions that are coming, and council and exec will continue to do their work of monitoring the day-to-day. So that's it for me. I know there were a couple of questions. Are there any questions that came up that because I went through it pretty quick, so if there's anything that you have. Yeah.
I'm just curious, is Clergy Financial a local company, national?
They are, I think they are local, but the person I work with, like COVID times, I've had Zoom meetings with him, and he appears out of his basement in Ohio. And he's a very nice gentleman, but he's not local, but the company is. Yep. All right.
Great, thank you, John. So I believe we need a motion to approve the budget as presented. That was Hobb, seconded by Blaine Thrasher. Any discussion of the budget and the motion? Okay, let's move to a vote then. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. All right, the motion passes and the budget is approved. Thank you for your hard work. Are there any announcements that we need to make? I didn't include this in the agenda because I overlooked it, but there's an opportunity to make announcements to the good of the congregation if we need that. Yes, Hobb Weiss.
I'm sorry, it's not an announcement. Is there a new business line?
Well, we can make it a new business line.
All right.
Sure.
I just want to say, even though I can speak really loud, thank you to John. How many years has it been, John?
I think
23.
Yeah. I was going to say 24. It was. So we can clap. Hold your claps. I wanted to speak a little bit in gratitude for our congregation and put us into context. First of all, having 87% of the congregation pledge is nuts. It doesn't happen unless you're an evangelical organization. So within the Lutheran world, to have nearly 90% of your congregation pledging to support the work and ministry of the church is incredible. Secondly, the idea of using electronic giving as first fruits giving, I take some credit for this since I instituted it long ago, evens out the cash flow and makes it so much easier to plan. And so just tremendous amount of gratitude for that. Because otherwise, we went into the doldrums of summer and used to wonder where the money was coming from. And John, I try to remind people of this often. This is the only congregation that I have observed in this area and in various parts of the country where people applaud the treasurer's report. It is the only place where I have ever seen a standing ovation for the treasurer's report. So your clarity, your diligence, and your loving service is much appreciated.
Okay, I'm just going to appear before the screen here because I want to give a shout out to the folks that haven't been able to join with us in the room. But we have some elders who have not been able to worship in person for quite a while, that watch diligently online and can't be here for the meeting. We have some young adults, I hope, who will maybe not watch this live, but might tune in eventually to see it and to see the work of their congregation. And I just want to let you all know that we miss you. And we pray for you, and you are a blessing to us, even in your absence. And we look forward to the day that we can all be back together again, truly. So I think with that, I am going to turn it over to Pastor Daniel for the closing prayer.
I neglected to mention thanks for the staff, and I know we've already recognized Paula for 20 years of incredible service, so thanks be to God again for Paula. But I just want to name Joshua Lindgren, our Director of Worship and Music, Molly, the choir school director and teacher, Jean Bent, our amazing parish nurse, Melinda, who one of our new staff people who's helping us with music, Eolalio and Maria, who are our janitorial staff, Jude, who is here faithfully helping with opening and closing on Wednesdays, and then Julie and Nick, who also help out on Wednesday nights. Can we give a round of applause to this incredible staff? And on behalf of the staff, thank you for approving the 5% increase for performance and for cost of living. Speaking as one of the co-pastors, this place would not run without these amazing people. And so we are so happy to do staff evaluations and recognize the work that they do on behalf of this ministry. So thanks be to God for that vote. And so let's pray. The Lord be with you. Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing the things. Amen? Amen. Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen, and the God of peace will be with you. Amen. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. And thank you so much for the leadership, and Aaron, Madam President, for leading today.
Okay, so with that, I would like to entertain a motion to close the meeting. So moved, Dave Brostrom. Second, Sonia Ellis. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. All right, the motion passes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.